Welcome back, fellas. Future CEO of BlackRock here. It's been 10 or so years since Bethesda and our great Todd Howard have given up with writing video game stories for nerds and decided that becoming the Wasteland's finest land developer should be the focus of the newest game, and I, for multiple, have simply forgotten that there's any other point to Fallout 4. Now look at Diamond City. Its wide range of amenities, its semi-drinkable water, its inability to be reasonably called the landmine capital of the world. There is a fundamental lack of sufficient suffering and corruption for its residents to build character, a viral disease in all of Bethesda from Whiterun to Megaton. If your first thought upon walking into Solitude and seeing the execution was not "this isn't enough capital punishment to satisfy me," then we're operating from two different worlds, which is why I'm the stepdad that stepped up. I have found a suitable location to begin the forming of the greatest and most despotic of empires the Commonwealth has ever seen, Hangman's Alley. Sporting the average Massachusetts square footage rate being 1 foot for every 3 raiders trying to kill you, Hangman's Alley is great at living up to its name and not a whole lot else. So we're gonna need an absolute power couple in order to flip this. Great. His name is Sinister Minister. After my work in the North handling Canadians and the way God intended, I get to live in a suburban Jetsons neighborhood with my clanker butler Codsworth and Sean. And as some kind of door salesman tries to market me nuke insurance, you may start to realize that, oh god, something terribly wrong has happened here. This is because I choose to modify the game to bend to my will. More on how that'll affect my grand empire later. Knowing full well what game I'm playing, I do everything in my power to die from the currently en route ballistic missile, but the game still forces me to fill out the paperwork regardless. So once I'm done throwing darts at the special sheet, an announcement plays on the telly that the Costco hot dog is now 15 more cents. It ain't looking good for modern civilization. World leaders are pressing all the buttons, people are ripping each other apart with their teeth. The point is, we gotta hide in the vault. After meeting some employees that were just waiting for the apocalypse every day, I guess, I am quickly shoved into a freezer before I can react, which I suppose I did not handle very well, until I am soon frozen for the next 200 or so years. Then, 2 Jehovah's Witnesses show up, take my baby as a tithe, and introduce my other half to the big man upstairs. Now that's pretty par for the Fallout 4 course, but after however longer in the Ice Bucket Challenge, I'm genuinely unsure on how I should be taking this. All I know is that I don't really feel like doing anything about it. Time to go. My build: handguns, big irons, melee with whatever piece of metal sturdy enough to hit someone with, and reverse pickpocketing for the chef's touch. Everything else will be devoted to regional management. So after emerging into the normal-looking American Northeast, I saunter back to my house to find Codsworth currently unbothered by world events. I let him get back to cleaning plutonium residue out of our floorboards or whatever because I'm breaking down everything not nailed to the floor, the nails, and then that other stuff because I'm gonna need a lot of materials. Next stop, Concord. On the way I meet Dogmeat the dog. He's an emo now, he's coming with. Because the first human in the post-apocalypse that isn't trying to shoot us is holed up on this Revolutionary War Museum balcony, and he's trying to hold off a 20-man onslaught with his wind-up laser musket. After seeing the British and getting rather inspired, if I do say so myself, I made my I added the filthy Frank death noise in, if you couldn't tell. So I met with this small faction of what the kids would call LARPers who didn't find the stuff in the museum, that's just what they wear. Preston Garvey is the last remaining member of the Minutemen, and I don't think he's faring very good, so we're gonna need to find a way to get through the rest of these raiders here and their Sturges. I also meet Mama Murphy, who's on drugs. Actually, everyone's on drugs, but she's on more. Beyond that, there's Angry Woman, Sad Man, free T-45 power armor, free minigun, and a lizard trying to rip out my entrails. It really just goes from 1 to 100. So once I'm done punching off heads, everyone discusses how they're heading back to my neighborhood as I give Mama Murphy a pure, unfiltered hiding, because these people are now under my jurisdiction. Unfortunately, Sturgio has brought up the Fair Housing Act and stated that as the landlord of this property, I legally have to provide accommodations due to Mama Murphy's chem addiction / schizophrenia cocktail. So after the bare minimum, I go to meet Mama Murphy, who will drop tiny bits of plot foreshadowing in exchange for drugs. Drugs I can provide. I make sure all my produce is local, which is why I got all this from my old house, which I have turned into a chem lab. Wow, Rex. Tonk, I suppose you aren't the sentimental type, is what you might say, but in all honesty, I've wanted to do this for a little while, and the HOA died in nuclear hellfire, so I'm just taking the opportunity. That wasn't their last time. And while I've had plenty of fun shaming the slightly less responsible fathers, placing shelves over and over, and practicing my checkhook on the locals, we don't actually have any business here in Sanctuary, so I feel it's time that we gotta get out of here. We gotta get out of here right now. So encountering a raider threatening a diner and shoving an entire landmine down his pants, I am able to reaffirm my support for small businesses. But regardless of that, we still have to head down to Boston for our penultimate goal here, so I'll just give you the spark notes. Alright, so I was fighting ghouls, giving random scavengers the Jimmy for their negligent breathing, fighting ghouls, and evicting the USS Riptide. I needed it off the front lawn of Hangman's Alley, which I'm closing in on right now, and while I was initially going with the stealthy approach, my warrior's aura and their subsequent awareness as to my position reminded me why I carry all these tire irons. I'm glad we got that out of our systems. This location for a fine tenement will do, and it being a total dump aligns greatly with my Nietzschean philosophies. I found out about the Ubermensch, and it sounds like I am that, bro. So the first thing I will be doing is modding the game, because trying to build anything in Fallout 4 without that, especially here, is like flipping your finger under a new shoe to force it on, except your finger is your brain. So we need increased build limit, place everywhere, Hangman's Alley optimized, which cleans up the location a bit and adds the surrounding streets and docks into the workshop area, and lastly, Terry Crews mini nukes because the game came out in 2015. It's possible that this may seem cheap to you, but remain assured you just don't see the vision of cruelty that I do yet. But before I can start renovating, I should go tour the area to see what we're working with here. Diamond City is actually right next to us, currently in the middle of an entire blockade just to keep out journalist Piper, and after 4 seconds of listening to her talk, I think I understand why. This is an opportunity to employ the funniest speedrun strategy I know, where you merely pick up and powerbomb Piper into the floor, which skips all the dialogue. We're in. Hitting her little sister with a clean leg sweep, I help resolve the local attempted fratricide and inform Piper about my life story, which I have forgotten about as soon as I realized murder is no longer prosecutable. Making my way down to the market, I accidentally steal something, which, in lack of prosecution, places me on the same threat level as an active shooter. I don't think these people are very happy with me. I'd also like to pay a visit to the caravan outpost Bunker Hill.
Caravan or Raider?
Raider!
Alright, the market's open if you need it.
Very accommodating, these folks. And after about a week of work, I'm pleased to report that my magnum opus has finished construction. I was really going for the aesthetically pleasing yet utterly totalitarian vibe, and I do believe I've succeeded. But besides this one guy who just showed up, I suppose.
Farming's as honest work gets.
The whole place is completely barren for as far as the eye can see, so while I did switch on my call center, I'd like to come pick up some special settlers to keep this place running smoothly. Firstly, Sheffield the homeless man. This is exactly who I was thinking about doing just that, and all he wants in exchange for infinite unpaid labor is a situationally ironically branded Coca-Cola. Piper's also there if you don't have ears, but I prefer a sense of class to my companions, which is why we're gonna pick up Kate. While she and her drug addiction are tagging along, every morally reprehensible action you take is accompanied by a little notification of her approval. This is precisely how the Irish operate in real life and the kind of person I need at my settlement. So I enter the combat zone and you get the idea. Tommy over here keeps complaining on how she's smoking him at a house and home and is willing to let you deal with the situation. Alright, so that should be good for now, and I know how much all of you have been itching to get the grand tour, so you know what? Fine. So the first thing you'll see is the gym, located at the front of the oppressively designed metropolis. This was initially supposed to be a diner until I discovered the workout equipment, which is literally just weights and a pommel horse. I have no clue what this thing is, but somehow everybody in the wasteland can do this. Regardless, it's a very popular area for the settlers, of which, between you and me, I've encountered some very odd behaviors in while playing Fallout 4. Not sure what ends up causing this, but I built a safe injection site in the middle of town just in case whatever epidemic this is gets lethal. It's pretty nice. Now above the dining areas, general purpose workshop, and our glorious and tightly regulated truth center, we have the 1-star dormitories. But besides if you have to sleep here, or you're the guy that got lost in the sauce over here, it's a fine place. You get your own filthy mattress, what else you need? Of course, the 2 rooms we have up there aren't nearly enough, so I built a 3rd one containing some very interesting smells. But maybe you don't get that one. Maybe you're too downtrodden, too poor to live in my glorious city. That's fine by me, I make do. So in the nearby sewer tunnels, we have a couple more mattresses for you to sleep on, you know, cause I'm so nice, but the tunnels are also home to this weirdo. She's not actually part of the colony, no, she just sells whatever waterlogged trash floats her way. But honestly, I can respect the hustle, so I won't be evicting her skull from her brain. But back on track, every morning I wake up at 4:30 sharp to distribute caltrops along the tunnel dwellers' commute, really building a sense of overcoming adversity they clearly don't have because they ended up here, you see. Everyone needs to eat, so that's why we've got a bar complete with words of encouragement and a mounted gun of persuasion. Not to mention the completely free asbestos bites cooked up locally by yours truly. It's a kinda like the barrel of peanuts at Texas Roadhouse. On the roof of the dorms is of course the punishment station, where we lock you in a pillory and blast you with 3,300 Fahrenheit of frontier justice. They respond by getting knocked down for a few seconds. It's kinda terrible at its job. Now we also do have plumbing with a fully functional and clean toilet, but I believe that if you want something, you're gonna have to work for it. of the day here. Confidence. Made it. We also have a break room, complete with a couch you may or may not be accidentally kicked in the teeth for sitting on, and even a microwave. Does the air taste like licking a lamppost to you guys too? So that brings us to the star of the show, the indoor market. No one's working the night shift. With its year-long Christmassy jolly, this place remains a point of pride and ultra-nationalism for the people of Hangman's Alley. The hung men of Hangman. Coming closer to the docks, we have a resident clinic for all your privatized healthcare needs. Real top of the line, we got 2 emergency floor coverings with some weird pillows I found in Afghanistan. Next up, we got my personal car battery throwing station. You can't object to this. The Charles was unsalvageable before the nukes. And of course, what's public humiliation without a dunk tank? See, I went on and got this baseball launcher for activating a target, which opens a door, letting companions make their way into somewhere I told them to go. Since we don't have power trap doors, this is just about the only way I can do this, but there's something novel about them having to dutifully hike on over to their destiny. Which is why I've installed a Tesla coil. Now, I'd like to say that I've really outdone myself here, and as such, I am deserving of a typical senator's salary, including APAC. Check out the penthouse, pores. All this is worth more than the monthly payment on your car. Radio playing some of DJ Toenail's greatest hits 24/7. Toilet, lightly used by me. A lavish balcony, terminals for managing the settlement, and of course, I'm not gonna go find Sean, so I had to make do. Also, I forgot to mention that we get our food from this rooftop plantation because I like to take pot shots at it from here whenever the workers slow down. Now, this whole thing is only accessible through the elevator or some other Mirror's Edge gameplay, but somehow I occasionally do find the rentoids shacking up in here and have to calmly, yet firmly, put them back in their place. That just about concludes all we have right now, but I did catch word of a real, functional, prosperous vault, so I'm heading over to ruin everything. So I walk in, shoot the overseer, throw tools at people, hit people with metal trays, give the kids an introductory course on heroin, sell Bobby Jet in front of his disapproving sister, accidentally liquefy the 3 of us with an IED, and are promptly told about a chronic illness one of the kids have. He was bitten by a mole rat in a closed-off experimental branch of the vault, so I go there, shoot them, steal 2 skeletons for no reason, and then talk to a French robot to get the only cure. Promptly returning to the medbay and are told, hey, good work down there, traveler, now I just need you to hand over that cure.
I used it for myself.
Then, just for good measure, I gaslight a child into giving me money in exchange for promising to help her find something which I'm not going to do. That should do it on the constructive conflict front here. I have some grand and terrible ideas I want to see come to fruition, and to do that we need some levels, around up to 40, so I guess I gotta oversee the alley for a while. Normally, XP wouldn't be a problem because you get more the more points you put into intelligence, so the obvious approach is to put no points in intelligence and pick up the Idiot Savant perk, which randomly has a chance to triple or even quintuple XP gain from anything, happening more frequently the lower your intelligence. With that and 1 intelligence, you gain on average more experience than someone with 10 intelligence. Truly, the Down syndrome build reigns supreme. But I needed a high intelligence for some other perks I had to get, so I gotta get creative. And look, as much as I enjoy defending the town from mercenaries and exploding super mutants, my working theory is that our karmic justice is what's been causing frequent raidings, so we need a protector deity, and I know where to get one. So there's this place called Saugus Ironworks, right? And there's this guy trying to join up with the cult gang there. His father's a bit down the road, but as far as he's concerned, he's dead to him. Excellent. No one is here to object to what I'm about to do. After what that is, and a small power armor puzzle, I find the boss and the guy joining up, convince said guy to guilty as conscious, and cave in his face anyway. After airing out the joint and taking the flaming katana, I collect what we're here for, a permit for building statues. Cause I modded in statues of Todd Howard.
The pawns the bishops threw up sea lords overlike. King of kings, atop mountain scale he proclaims to the light-pinking beneficent storm. May the lands quadruple in scale, and the smallest grain of sand magnify 16-fold. All things as they may work, let no mountain dare climb, and no path be untraveled. Adventure awaits.
Also, check out our communion wine station. Real top shelf stuff, you don't get this with the lesser gods. But of course, if you know me, you can infer that access to the Church of the One True Todd can be blocked off with a switch near the penthouse. Something about religious practice being prohibited, permitted, and controlled by the state just seemed my style, you know? But as Joshua Goshua said with his honest heart, you can't expect God to do all the work, and with a base defense stat of 16 right now, he's got quite the workload. Yes, I know it says 11 here, I didn't check. That's why I've decided to actually help the minute men retake their old fort for some goodies I can find in it. The first task is to help 10 Pines bluff with a fort of raiders, but it's sort of my off day, so I brought the max level power armor I stole. Wow, Ronk, where'd you get something like that, you subconsciously think, because I know you? The answer is that the post-apocalyptic deep state paramilitary tried to pacify me and it wasn't fun, but now I can just bring this out whenever I declare you not worth the time of my unarmored day. So I made it back to the Garv just in time for him to tell me the very important exposition that you better be listening to. Yeah, you. So the Minutemen fell apart because they were attacked by a mercenary faction called the Gunners, and all the leaders died. Because all the leaders died, I'm now the general starting now. So after that other thing I didn't record, I head over to the castle with this big green guy I met while looking for car batteries, and we initiate with the honeypot gambit, leading away the crabs, stealing the eggs from my local potluck, and incinerating the big one. I have to say, we did a bang-up job here, and the fallen will be This allows us to talk to a certified OG who gets us away into the basement to have our legs blown off and then have to deal with a 300-ton ball flattening machine. Just bad news all around for my lower body. However, I did end up finding a new pair of threads in a way into the stockpile, which contains schematics for mortars. You see where I'm going with this, right? Because augmenting the value with a definitely structurally sound artillery platform now gives us plenty of that defense value, artillery support covering the majority of Boston, and the ability to accidentally demolish my own settlement. See, I might get a notification telling me that this is too danger close, but this is a manipulative psychological tactic. It's lying to me. Not to mention I upgraded the outer defenses and Codsworth, our new resident RoboCop. You could just do that, by the way. See, still Codsworth. Now, in order to turn your robot butler into Atom Smasher, you need to go through this whole hullabaloo, and I'm not going to show you it, but what I remember is I encountered this one Bostonian on the way who tried to sell me a charge card. Obviously, he was trying to scam me, so I let it happen in hopes I feel something, which is when he calls me a retard. Can't have people just figuring me out like that. It's about time the autism speaks. Confusingly, the charge card actually pays back its purchased value only to a single vendor that's all the way out in Maine. No clue either. But back in the present, I like to ally with the local factions to build rapport. Kind of like what the Brotherhood of Steel are doing with the cat ears and tail on their power armor, presumably to not intimidate the locals as they kick down your door and steal your toaster. It's kind of like how if ICE was rebranded to Trump Coon's Catboy Gestapo, it would remove most, if not all, public scrutiny. Sure, they're not going to stop ripping up your documents and deporting you to Anne Orlando, but on the offset, any articles about the misconduct would be too funny for anyone to take seriously. And not to mention those that this Skylander agrees with me images would now be crossing the threshold of universally intolerable cringe, simply because it would be embarrassing to be angry at something with that name. So it's practical. GOP, you need to do this. It would be so funny. Anyway, I completed that initial quest in ArcJet Systems, and I was looking to help out, which is when Scribe Halen tells me to go get some experimental technology that's also coincidentally in Maine. Thank you, I'm not doing that. Yeah, thanks for putting that in the quest location pool, Todd. I also followed the Freedom Trail and fought off the pursuing massholes to join the railroad. I just wanted the gun, honestly. What are you gonna do? What do you want from me? Point is, my vast array of connections allow me to keep the people of Hangman's Alley, my people, safe and alive from the horrors of the wasteland. That way, they can solve that problem with each other in the Skull Throne. Here's how it works. Whenever we have any kind of disagreement in the settlement whatsoever, be it political, socioeconomic, pineapple on pizza, someone's wearing a slightly overpriced brand of slacks, doesn't matter, we teleport both belligerents into teams and give them one lucky helper each. Arming them with tire irons, I proceed to head on over to the Ima Cavea and hit the garage door opener. One team dies, and we stop hearing about the issue. Now, it's pretty impressive how I was able to solve the flaws of democracy like that, so I decided to goof off a little. For instance, if you take a chainsaw knife and a baseball bat, then deconstruct and open modifications for the baseball bat at the same time, you glitch the game into putting baseball bat mods on the chainsaw knife, thus allowing you to deal the damage of hitting someone with a rocket-powered baseball bat every tick of the chainsaw. Theoretically, I was expecting to be able to turn anything into a McFlurry instantly, but I kinda messed up on the mods. It doesn't matter. Now, beyond the police station for our police state, I also built a Deathclaw cage on the side of the road, which works. So I built a sign, which usually doesn't. At night, you can hear it thrashing about, ready to start ravaging through the peasantry and shredding us limb from limb. Think of it as a modern version of the total atomic annihilation threat, even after we ripped off that band-aid. Now, you might be thinking, does this work for human? Yeah. Specifically, we can put money in cages and wait for those aforementioned gunner mercenaries to find their way in. It's actually a good source of drops, so you could even farm. So we're talking like 50 caps each for upkeep costs. On a couple of mods, we can extract 200, like 100. Yeah, that's something to keep in mind. Happy to report that everything is running smoothly. I mean, how couldn't it after everything I've done? But while we're sustainable, we're not profitable. Now, yes, I have been running collections on the Hangman's Alley denizens, but that's proved rather insufficient for my boundless greed. Normally, I just hop on Polymarket and click no for everything. A technique pioneered by the chuds of yore, but the servers have been down for about 210 years, so I'll have to improvise. What better code than money makes money? I mosey on into the Colonial Tap House in Diamond City and find some guy arguing with the bartender for banging his wife. right? So they get into a brief kerfuffle, which ends in the bartender quantum tunneling him into the ground. That's gotta be humiliating, so I offer said guy the chance to make this fair. I'll just be the intimidating presence, a job I take very seriously. But the bartender tells him to take it easy and makes it up to him with a job offer. Nothing like some good drug pilfering to even it out for the cuckoldry. After a couple dogs, a couple mafia men, and a couple summary executions, we get a few crates full of all kinds of goodies. This is when I remember, sharing is caring. I don't care. That and the chem lab I just broke into gives us enough product and by extension startup capital to set up this. Hydro farms are the easiest money-making venture in the game. Every few days, I swing by, grab the stockpiled purified water, and bankrupt every trader I know who are forced to buy as much as I choose to sell them. A sweet gig, and the only caveat is that, while staring off into space for days on end to do this, friends and family of those two occasionally ask me if I've seen them, at which point I must lie. I feel like a real politician already. That, and also raids get bigger the more resources you produce, 280 water being recognized as slightly excessive, so now we get raids from packs of death claws. Nothing me and the chewy cartilage of my tenants can't handle. After taking on a bunch of odd jobs and doing stuff I'm not necessarily proud of, I raise my level past 40, which lets you do cool stuff like build more weapon mods, and last but not least, invest. That way, I can take more of the trader's money. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe it is time to diversify our assets. Hangman's Valley is all well and good, but I believe setting up multiple smaller colonies will expand my influence. And what better example of mass corporatization than the fine people at Vault-Tech? Not the dweebs at Vault 81, I'm thinking Vault 88. It wasn't finished in hole digging, but the overseer is still there after the 200 years.
Why did you help me?
Actually, I'm here to offer you the bargain of a lifetime.
Ghoul Overseer Barstow is going to show us the finest and most experimental methods of managing settlers that she's devised. We just need a test subject. Wastelander 1 isn't privy, Wastelander 2 isn't privy, which leaves us only with Clem, the level 6 Gore. Couldn't ask for anyone better. First experiment, the power bike. So that one needs work. Second experiment, fluoride, red 40, aspartame, HFCS soda. Pretty decent. Third experiment, photoraptor that briefly flashes you with subliminal messaging. Now we're getting somewhere. And lastly, the slot machine. Now that's what I'm talking about. So I built... yeah. I did. Now that was quite the success, but it doesn't solve our original problem of gaining more settlements under our influence, but then it hit me, like a 2-liter exploding on a dog. See, I was on vacation at the time in Sanctuary, sealing up the bedroom in my old house to hotbox black tar heroin, which is when I realized that the settlements just need our help.
Word from a settlement asking for
Another
help.
word from
Yes, that's it exactly! I need the help of the Minutemen's finest, Mr. President Gravy. He's currently at the castle breaking it down. Preston Garvey is not only a symbolic example of the upper body strength of the Minutemen's willpower, but also the agility and limberness we display in helping the settlements of which need our help. First up, the fine people of Oberlin Station need our help resolving a kidnapping inside the federal ration stockpile. Either pay a pocket-sized cut of ransom or strangle 40 people to death with my bare hands. Needless to say, I don't negotiate with raider scum. I proceed to grab all the food and instantly scarf it all down as the hostage looks on in horror. Next, help the guy whose son I brutally murdered as he stood from afar, nodding his head in approval, deal with some super mutants. After that, help a few greenhouse keepers deal with their super mutant problem. After that, go to Starlight Drive-In and get told that the factory I crushed under my XO1 power armor boot hasn't yet learned its lesson. One more to let it sink in. After that, the farmers at Somerville Palace need me to shoot all the ghouls at Suffolk County Charter School. How's it going, Preston? One more for the watch list, eh, buddy? For some reason, every square inch of the school is covered in the Michelle Obama mandated pink food paste goop. I don't know why, nor do I have an interest in finding out why it is like that. Then I went to the Merkwada construction site, fought off the crabs, and set up a radio signal. Finally, I went to the Warwick homestead and had to help them deal with Big Mac. I put him in the value meal. Perfect. Now that we have all these settlements, I decided to establish defenses, supply lines, infrastructure, and acknowledgements about foreign sovereignty in the settlements I actually like. That being the Swamp Town, the Warwicks, and the Greentop Nursery. With mortars established there as well, we have artillery coverage over most of the map. Now, as for the other settlements, I don't really need them. Now this was some absolutely tremendous work today, I do believe, and it was all possible thanks to Preston, my Pookie, my OTP if you will. That's why I confessed my love in front of our daylit alley while macrodosing combat amphetamines and screaming in rage. Who could possibly turn down such a romantic display? So he of course reciprocated, and then I fired him out of a cannon, I did. Now, I do believe that at this point, Mr. Sinister Minister is likely to be recognized as a world elite, and we all know what that means. Yeah, that's right, Island. It took a bit of effort to get it back into working order. I had to get rid of that weird stripe thing, but I invited all of my accomplices over. We're talking Kate, French Robot, the Hulk, Piper, and even Preston managed to float on over. See, the stupid hat in the water, that's him. I even patched up this house to the best of my very limited abilities. Now, let's set this straight. I did not recreate the crimes, okay? I'm a YouTuber, but I'm a trustworthy guy. You can trust his face. Yeah, anyways, I don't really have any plans for this, but what I do have plans for is Diamond City. Over 1,000 square feet of pure sickening rapaciousness, and it's about time I do something about it for the people of Hangman's Alley. No more will we be overshadowed. I'm just kidding. The real reason is because due to the fact I need the front door of my penthouse open, the 900 kilowatt per hour stadium floodlights they keep on 24/7 are blasting me in the face every afternoon. This is a problem I could have avoided with slightly better planning, and one I will be taking zero responsibility for. Now, if only there was a way a guy like me could deal with the Umpire Empire in a rapid and efficient way regardless of any innocent lives lost. So remember that glitch we did with the chainsaw knife and the baseball bat modifications? It works for guns too. This weird thing I'm holding is a pipe pistol that's glitched to have its bullets transform into sniper rifle rounds as soon as they leave the barrel. Let's take that to its logical extreme, shall we? So I believe that resolves the Diamond City dilemma. Now that I think about it, I could have just moved the doorway. But anyways, this now leaves my magnificent creation as the Wasteland's finest city and its one and only hope for the future. But Rexy Poo, what about Good Neighbor? Oh, I don't know. What about Good Neighbor? The first thing that happened when I showed up is some guy extorted me for protection money, and then the mayor walked up and stabbed that guy. I would never need to kill one of my tenants in my city. I have my tenants do that for me. Also, don't call me that. After fighting off the Diamond City Remnant Battalion through the streets, I walk back to the alley just in time for my evil plan. Perhaps you did see the realization I had, but I don't believe you realized to what extent the distance I'm willing to go for my dream if it would mean converting human suffering into cold hard profit. Are you ready for this? Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Fertilizinator. 42 cages that randomly materialize gunner mercenaries every few days, and then at the flick of a switch, pummel, butcher, process, and package them, all powered by 2 fusion reactors. The whole process takes around 20 minutes, depositing them and the loot they brought into these storage boxes. Preston looks on at my magnum opus, the automated destruction of his mortal enemies. He's ecstatic. Finally, the flame of vengeance has been quelled. So how it works is it has a command room with a number of switches. One shuts the whole thing on and off, one opens the corpse gate, one is an entirely unnecessary but much needed puree function, and these 3 are supposed to individually open the layers of cages, but they all simultaneously fire off anyways. Once you let the bodies hit the floor, someone's got to give the switch to the lower gate a shove forward. You don't need to know how all this works, but my best explanation is that everything is funneled into an auto butcher, then dumped onto a main conveyor first, and different pieces of gunner are picked off by sorters. One takes away the ammo and healing items, one takes away the grenades and food, one takes away the meat, one takes away the weapons and armor, which are broken down, and all the components are sent to the workshop except plastic and steel, because we have a use for that. The steel and the human meat are taken away and combined with the purified water that we already suck out of the harbor by the gallon and made it to Soylent Green. This stuff is pure compacted profit. I invested into almost every trader in the Commonwealth, including my own market, and I still almost clear them out before running out of Soylent every time I head out to sell. They cannot get enough of it. But I would like to mention that this factory has its problems and notable management procedures, because after use, each cage needs to be rearmed individually. However, it says it takes 50 caps, but it's actually only 5, so it is still sustainable. Also, I did have to move the car battery throwing station, but check it out, automatized. Also, human meat tends to easily clog up the factory before it's mechanically processed. That's a sentence, so I recommend buying the spray and pray submachine gun to give the factory line a good jostle from a distance with the explosive bullets. But here at Hangman's Farms, we process the whole skeleton into fertilizer in a 3-step manufacturing process and wrap it with plastic to make industrial quantities of jet. This I don't sell. Now, I do have a perk which removes chem withdrawal because I can clearly quit anytime I want, and also at this point definitely also removes overdose too, and this allows me to conduct every gunfight in entirely in slow motion. Like it or not, I am now running a Chronomancer build, and all it took was a single death factory. But I'm done with all these pointless frills. I've made my money. My community needs me. This needs to be shared with the world. Bobby at Vault 88 gets as much as he wants for free. Don't breathe it in all at once, kid. I'm serious, you don't happen to have chem resistant level 2 as well, do you? I'm dispersing jet into every container in every rundown city for all you scavengers out there. This is for you. I'm running peace talks with every raider faction around with the medium of jet. They are very receptive to it. I filled up my bathtub with jet. I did, I am not lying. And Mama Murphy. It's been a while since I cooked her up something good, so I'm giving Mama Murphy her chems plus interest.
Hey.
Got some mentats for me?
Oh, you
See
wanted
where the site takes us?
mentats.
But who's to say?
Well, I believe that'll do it. We topped the grand jewel of the Commonwealth with our shining gem of all America, introduced the masses to the joys of a jetted lifestyle, and demoted good neighbor to bad neighbor. It's called good neighbor because it's the good neighbor to Diamond City with less cool racism and all that, but they're not the good neighbor. We're the better neighbor. They're just bad neighbor now. We're good neighbor. Anyway, so this save file has, I don't know, like 12 more hours of playtime before it collapses into a singularity, so let me know if we should come back, maybe go to Nuka World, maybe do the main story, I don't know. And if I can get it working in the next few days, I'll post the whole settlement on Nexus mods for anyone to download. Improve this mess, make it worse, implement a military junta, I don't care. For now, I'll be seeing ya. I have been Rexplode and my lungs don't work.